6 9 versus Nine Trey Gangster Bloods. 6 9 linked himself to the Nine Trey Gangster Bloods in 2017. The deal was simple. He gave them money and exposure, and they gave him credibility, protection, and muscle. Key members included Shotty, Mel Murda, and Harv. Each played a role: security, management, and enforcement. Problems started when 6 9's fame grew faster than the gang's control over him. Arguments broke out over money, loyalty, and who really owned his career. His habit of publicly insulting rival gangs forced Nine Trey into real street conflicts, increasing internal pressure. The tension snapped in July 2018. Harv and Shaw kidnapped 6 9, beat him, and took jewelry after accusing him of disrespecting the gang structure. The incident was caught on cameras, and it exposed fractures inside Nine Trey more clearly than any diss track ever could. Federal agents were already monitoring Nine Trey, but the kidnapping sped everything up. Wiretaps later captured Blood affiliate Jim Jones telling members to super violate 6 9 for stepping out of line. By November, the FBI arrested 6 9 and several Nine Trey leaders under RICO, laws designed to dismantle entire criminal organizations at once. Facing decades in prison, 6 9 cooperated. He broke down the gang's hierarchy, identified key members, and described their crimes in court. His testimony sent Shotty, Mel Murda, and others to federal prison, while earning himself a reduced sentence. The consequences followed him outside. In 2023, members linked to the Latin Kings attacked him in a Florida gym, proof that once you cooperate against a gang, the label sticks far beyond your original beef. Rick Ross versus the Gangster Disciples. Rick Ross escalated tensions with the Gangster Disciples through a lyric. In his 2010 track BMF, Blowing Money Fast, he referenced two names: Big Meech of the Black Mafia family and Larry Hoover, the founder of the Gangster Disciples. Mentioning Hoover linked Ross to a figure still fighting federal charges, which GD members viewed as disrespectful and exploitative. The issue intensified in 2012 when GD enforcer Kitty, Kevin Clayton, organized members across multiple states. Their claim was simple: Ross used Hoover's name without showing respect, payment, or acknowledgement. The real motive was extortion. Ross was a multi-million-dollar artist touring the country, and GD sets believed he owed them compensation for using their founder as branding. Threat videos began circulating online. GD members warned promoters not to book Ross unless a payment was made. The pressure mounted around the God Forgives, I Don't tour, where Ross abruptly canceled multiple dates in cities with strong GD presence. Publicly, he blamed promoters. Privately, the threat level was rising. The conflict peaked on January 27, 2013, when Ross left a Miami restaurant around 4:40 a.m. with his girlfriend. A vehicle pulled alongside his Rolls Royce and opened fire. Ross accelerated, lost control, and crashed into a building to escape the gunshots. No injuries occurred, but the incident aligned closely with prior threats from GD affiliates. Later testimony from an Atlanta GD member suggested Ross eventually gave in, allegedly paying around $3 million, reduced from an initial demand of $6 million. Although Ross denied being extorted, the timeline, cancellations, and insider testimony strengthened the belief that he settled the dispute to protect himself and his team. 50 Cent versus Murder Inc. and Supreme. 50 Cent's conflict with Murder Inc. became dangerous the moment Kenneth Supreme McGriff entered the picture. Supreme was a Queens crime boss with a long federal record involving drug trafficking, extortion, and violent retaliation. His relationship with Ja Rule and Irv Gotti meant 50 was dealing with a rap label backed by someone with real influence in the streets. The initial tension began after a chain robbery involving one of 50's associates. Ja Rule blamed 50, and the dispute escalated from an argument into a street-level feud. Murder Inc. relied on Supreme during this period, increasing the seriousness of the situation. One major incident took place at the Hit Factory studio in New York. A fight broke out between members of Murder Inc. and 50's team. During the brawl, rapper Black Child stabbed 50 with a blade, leaving a large wound across his torso. The stabbing was later confirmed in court documents. In April 2000, 50 Cent was shot 9 times outside his grandmother's home in South Jamaica, Queens. The attacker was never officially charged, but the shooting occurred at the height of his conflict with Supreme Circle. The injuries were severe and left 50 temporarily unable to secure a record deal due to safety concerns around his name. Federal investigators increased surveillance. In 2003, the FBI raided Murder Inc.'s office while examining accusations of money laundering connected to Supreme. The Gottis were later acquitted, but federal files showed how closely Supreme operated around the label. Another source of hostility came from 50's track Ghetto Quran, which described historical Queens drug operations. Several individuals connected to those events viewed the song as revealing sensitive information, further raising tension. Once 50 signed with Eminem and Dr. Dre, he gained corporate backing and security. Murder Inc. declined under financial pressure, industry losses, and the weight of federal attention. Supreme eventually received a life sentence for separate murder-for-hire charges, closing the chapter on the conflict. This remains one of the clearest examples of a rapper entering direct conflict with a real gangster who operated an active criminal network. Suge Knight versus the Stanley Brothers. In 1992, Dr. Dre was recording The Chronic inside the Solar Records building, which Death Row had partially taken over. 2 aspiring artists, George and Linwood Stanley, were invited to work there in hopes of earning a deal. At the same time, the studio floor had accumulated an $8,000 phone bill, a cost that drew direct warnings from the building's owner. Tension was already high inside the label. One night, Suge Knight found Linwood Stanley using a phone line that was meant for restricted calls, including calls from Harry O., a major death row financier serving time in prison. Suge told Linwood to hang up. Linwood, unaware of who Suge was and unfamiliar with the politics inside death row, replied with dismissive comments and told Suge to go talk to Dre. The response triggered a violent reaction. Suge left the room, returned armed, and confronted both brothers. He demanded their clothes, fired a shot into the wall as intimidation, and physically assaulted the brothers until they complied. He also confiscated their IDs and issued threats referencing their home addresses, making clear that further defiance would have consequences. After being released, the Stanley brothers encountered police outside and immediately filed a report. When officers searched the studio, they found the bullet still lodged in the wall, corroborating the account. The brothers later sued Suge Knight in civil court and won a $1 million settlement along with the recording deal. Their win did not translate into a music career. The album they created for Death Row was shelved after Tupac's death, and Suge's imprisonment caused the label to collapse. By the time the industry moved on, their opportunity was gone. One moment of disrespect towards Suge Knight had effectively ended their future in the business. CJ versus the Blood Hound Brims. CJ rose to fame in 2020 with his viral drill single Whoop-Dee. The problem began with the title itself. Whoop-Dee wasn't just slang. It was a specific greeting used inside the Blood Hound Brims, a violent subset of the United Blood Nation. Members used the word to identify each other, especially inside prisons. It was never meant for outsiders. CJ wasn't part of the Brims, but he used their greeting repeatedly in the hook, the ad-libs, and the marketing. He doubled down by filing an official trademark application to legally claim ownership of the word Whoop-Dee. To actual gang members, this wasn't creative branding. It was a civilian trying to profit from a word tied to indictments, surveillance, and active cases. The music video added fuel. CJ wore a red bandana, stood beside alleged blood members, and used hand signs associated with the Brims. The lyrics referenced hats, another Brim term, and alluded to activities like stash houses and firearms. For the Brims, this wasn't harmless imagery. It was a non-member claiming their identity on a global stage. The response came directly from Latique Johnson, founder of the Blood Hound Brims, speaking from federal prison. His message was calm, but unmistakably serious. CJ was not Brim, had no right to use their language, and was exploiting words connected to criminal cases that had put men away for decades. He emphasized that claiming a gang without earning it invites consequences beyond music. Once Latique Johnson spoke, CJ's reputation collapsed. The industry narrative shifted from breakout drill star to fabricated persona. His debut EP, Loyalty Over Royalty, sold poorly, and his momentum disappeared almost instantly. Without real street support, and with gang members publicly rejecting him, CJ's career stalled. The attention he gained from the Brims was exactly the kind no artist can survive. MC Hammer versus Third Bass. In the late 1980s, MC Hammer was one of the most commercially successful rappers in the world. But behind the flashy stage shows, he had deep ties in Oakland and maintained protection from local gangs and street figures. Many artists respected him not for his music, but for the network around him. The conflict started when Third Bass, a New York rap group, released a song called The Cactus. In the fourth verse, they rapped a line referencing Hammer's song, Turn This Mother Out. The line twisted Hammer's title into a jab, implying disrespect toward Hammer's mother. For Hammer, family references were a hard boundary. At that time, Hammer's success made him a target for ridicule from several rappers, but Third Bass crossed a personal line. Hammer's brother allegedly contacted Def Jam and warned that the group would be targeted when they arrived in Los Angeles. According to later interviews, Hammer also authorized a $50,000 bounty to be handled by the Rolling 60s Crips. When Third Bass landed in LA, the label hired Barefoot Pookie, an original Crip, to protect them. Even with protection, the threat became real. In a Beverly Center mall, MC Search noticed men flashing blue rags and closing in. Pookie intervened moments before the situation escalated. The next day, during a live radio appearance, MC Search confronted Hammer directly over the phone, challenging him on air. This triggered a second confrontation. As Search left the station, vehicles boxed him in on the mountain road outside the building. One man allegedly pulled out a Mac 11, a machine pistol capable of firing over 1,000 rounds per minute. Pookie again intervened before anything happened. The group spent the rest of their trip disguised and escorted until it was safe to leave California. Years later, Search admitted the incidents caused lasting trauma and that he would apologize to Hammer if given the chance. The situation demonstrated how Hammer's clean public image concealed real influence and how a single lyric directed at the wrong person could trigger life-threatening retaliation. Peso Pluma versus the CJNG cartel. Peso Pluma's problems began when he shifted into narco-corrido themes, songs referencing cartel figures, territory, and operations. His breakout collaborations in 2022, including El Belicon and Siempre Pendientes, directly mention names linked to the Sinaloa cartel, such as Joaquin El Chapo Guzman and his son Ivan Guzman Salazar. These references were not symbolic. They were clear nods to specific cartel leaders. The music videos amplified the issue. Peso Pluma and his collaborators were shown wearing tactical vests, holding rifles, and staging scenes resembling cartel patrols. While such imagery appears in the genre, Pluma's versions were unusually explicit. Combined with massive online reach, it created the impression of open support for the Sinaloa cartel. The conflict emerged because Mexico's cartels are territorial. The CJNG is one of the Sinaloa cartel's primary rivals. Peso Pluma was born in Jalisco, the CJNG's base, and yet repeatedly praised figures from their rival organization. In cartel terms, this is seen as aligning with the enemy, intentionally or not. Tension escalated during a 2023 festival performance in Mexico City. While performing Siempre Pendientes, Peso Pluma encouraged the crowd, over 100,000 people, to sing the initials JGL, referring to El Chapo. For CJNG members, this was public allegiance to a rival cartel broadcast nationwide. 3 days later, the warning arrived. Multiple narco-mantas, large public banners used by cartels to communicate threats, appeared across Tijuana. They were signed by the CJNG and addressed directly to Peso Pluma. The message stated that if he performed his scheduled October concert, it would be his last show, referencing his disrespect and loose tongue. The threat was credible. The CJ&G is known for enforcing warnings through public violence. Peso Pluma immediately canceled the Tijuana concert, followed by cancellations across multiple U.S. cities. Venues and promoters grew hesitant, citing safety concerns for staff and attendees. Since the incident, Peso Pluma has avoided performing the most controversial songs in cartel-dominated regions. The situation marked a rare moment where a mainstream artist's career trajectory was altered by direct cartel intervention. There you have it. Let me know what you think of these situations in the comments. Thank you for watching till the end. I appreciate you. Please like and subscribe so I can bring you more videos like this. Peace out.